So hello everybody. So I think we are up and running again, just changing the title to week 8. Welcome to week 8 of digital marketing. This week, the biggest and most important announcement is to make sure that you spend some time on your situation analysis, environmental analysis, and marketing goals for the upcoming project assignment, right? And as we discussed last week, I really want to make sure that those goals that you suggest are smart. And a couple of real tips on that. So 3 to 5 goals. I want, it's nice to have a little bit of a brief intro as to what the goals are generally trying to achieve. And then for each of the goals, have a clearly stated one sentence that's a SMART goal, talking about what the goal actually is, what the time frame is for the goal, all those kind of important aspects, right? Then having a sentence describing why that's an important goal, or sorry, a sentence probably, the next sentence is probably the best way to transition. It depends. I mean, I'm not going to be strict about this, but usually the next best sentence is a sentence describing how that goal will be measured, right, and how it will be evaluated. And then having a sentence after that describing why that goal is important, right? How is it actually going to generate revenue? How is it actually going to generate sales, right? So tie it all back around. I know some people have, feel like, our client knows this already, or they already know all this stuff. It doesn't matter. Tell them again, right? Like, it doesn't hurt to beat them over the head with the fact that digital marketing is a good way to achieve increased revenue, increased brand awareness, et cetera, right? Tell them as many times as you can what the impact of your plan will be, right? Had a couple of questions that came in during the week. So I just wanted to kind of try and answer those questions real quick. So one of them deals with offline versus online competition. Now, some people have been like, well, all these firms have social media sites online now, right? That's not what I mean. I mean by, are they competing for the product in an online or offline sense, right? So, for instance, a mom and pop bookstore competes with Amazon, but they're an offline competitor, even if the mom and pop bookstore has a website, has a social media presence, everything like that, right? If they only sell the products offline, that's going to differentiate how they're going to compete, right? And the reason why this is important is because of the fact that you need to think about the things you can do differently to compete with offline versus online competitors, right? So if you're a local store and you're competing with another local store, right, that defines a different competitive space than if you're a local store who's competing with a large-scale enterprise like Amazon, for instance, right? So trying to identify those offline, online competitors will help you identify what the best marketing strategy you can propose is, right? Okay. Again, I had some questions on tech, right? And when you're in the example, I talk about that you might want to discuss the technology, right? And what I mean by technology is how is technology affecting the brand, service, whatever the company is providing, right? Don't worry about tech affecting the digital marketing itself, right? Because we know tech's going to affect digital marketing. So the reason why I'm asking you to think about this is if there is a way to get synergy between the tech changes that are happening and your digital marketing plan, then that's important for you to know, right? So to give you an example, I had a team come in, or a team talk to me over email and office hours about selling live event tickets and how important streaming of live events is becoming, right? Facebook Live, YouTube, streaming, right? All these different kinds of technologies, Periscope, etc., right? And so that's something that clearly they need to discuss because it can affect the way they're going to sell their tickets, how they're competing. And maybe one of the answers is they actually embrace the technology and they work with it. And another one is they try and argue in their digital marketing campaigns as to why it's better to be there in person rather than watching streamed video, right? So that's something they have to decide. And so I think that's an appropriate example where bringing up technology in the environment is important to do. Life cycle. So there's also some conversations about what stage your company is in terms of life cycle. again, this is something that you should only really talk about if it's going to affect your digital marketing, right? If you have a well-established firm, it's been around forever, there doesn't seem much chance that it's going to die off anytime soon, you probably don't need to talk about life cycle very much, right? On the other hand, if you have a new brand just starting up, has no brand awareness, right, then that's something where you're probably going to need to at least mention that briefly when talking about the life cycle of the product, right? So that's just a quick note on life cycle. Some people ask where to place your figures in your document. I don't, in the actual description it says put them at the end as exhibits. I'm not strict about that. I kind of wrote, those guidelines. Actually, I wrote those with a couple of colleagues of mine at a previous university, and I wrote those guidelines. We wrote those guidelines so that there were defaults for everything, right? So if you had a question, there was an answer. I don't really care too much if you stick to those defaults as long as you're consistent throughout the entire document. So I did have some questions about like companies where people don't know, they're brand new companies, they really don't know what the goals should be, they really don't know how to establish them because the company hasn't done anything yet, right? My guide to that is that you should try to figure out, I want to see concrete goals still. I don't want a goal of something like we will build a website, right? Like that's not a marketing goal, right? So much as that is a method by which you achieve a marketing goal. I want the marketing goal that follows from that, right? And the marketing goal could be we will have a website that will have 100 visitors per week within 3 months, right? Like as long as you have some sort of metric as to how you're going to do that, and then of course you need an explanation. We're going to measure it by looking at web traffic counters, right? And we need to do that because we need to increase brand awareness. Getting people actively engaged with our website is a good way to increase brand awareness. Well, something like that, right? Maybe it's you need to create a bunch of content for social media. If that's the case, then say we will create X amount of content for social media. We will distribute that over X number of weeks. I would love it if you went one step further and said, and we hope to see X number of reshares, right? I'm not going to ever criticize you for a particular value. I might make a comment like that value seems a little extreme. I'm not going to downgrade you at all for that, right? I am going to evaluate the way you got to that number. Like, why is 100 a good number? Why is 200 a good number? Why is 10% a good number, right? And so spend some time thinking about that. But I'm never gonna grade you. Like, digital marketing in many respects is so new, and every company is so different. It's really hard to give you an example and say this is the exact number you should be using. The comparison. This is something that I am seeing people screw up a little bit. So I asked in the guidelines to research your competitors and then to compare your product and your digital marketing to the competitors, right? And I want to make sure that that latter part is the part that I'm really emphasizing, right? Which is that I want you to take a look to see what your company is doing in terms of digital marketing already before this plan. And I want you to compare that to what the other firms are doing. And if your company is doing nothing, then you're just looking at the other firms. But there are two good reasons to do this, right? One is because you need to come up with a good digital marketing strategy that allows you to compete against those other brands, right? So you need to understand what those brands are doing before you can come up with your own strategy that beats those brands. Right? The second reason is that researching competitors can provide you good insight into what you like, right? Let's imagine you have 3 competitors. You go to competitor A, and you're like, they're doing their social media great, but their website's total, just junk, right? You go to competitor B, and they're like, oh, their website's fantastic, right? This is awesome, but they have no social media, right? And then you go to a website, there's the third competitor, right? And maybe they don't even have a website, they have a Facebook page, right? And so it causes you to question how you're going to put together your overall strategy, right? And looking at those different examples can really help inform your own decisions. Okay, so that's all the questions I had about the group project, and hopefully if you have any more, let me know. It doesn't look like anyone's in the chat today, so nothing going on there, and I haven't seen anyone else come in since or send me any emails since. I last looked at this, and same is true. Yep. Okay. So so that's all for the group project. What else is going on this week? So the one thing I want to mention, right, is that next week is spring break, so you won't be seeing office hours for me. I'm actually out of the country here on campus. Um, hopefully, you will be seeing the analytics exam go up shortly. I have it all worked out. I just got to put the finishing touches on it. It'll go up sometime today. You'll have 2 weeks to work on that, and that's the next big project after this group project. And then you will be receiving your grades and feedback on the conceptual exam by the end of this week. That's my promise, right? So you'll see it by the end of this week. That's what I really want to get done. I apologize, just had some family illnesses and some travel, and so I haven't been able to get as much time together as I wanted. I want it done by the time that I broadcast this. That was my original goal, to get it turned around in 2 weeks. But I haven't quite gotten it finished yet. So hopefully it'll be done in the next day or so. So that you'll see that up there soon. So analytics exam is the next big turn in you got. I can tell you, it'll be it's going to be different than the conceptual exam, right? Because rather than just reading an article and responding to it, I'm going to actually ask you to work through a scenario and actually do some calculations and figure out the best way to do the analytics in that space. Okay, so hopefully you'll be able to go back, look through the notes, look through the YouTube videos, and put something together for that. You got 2 weeks to work on it, so you should have plenty of time to get it done. Yeah, and I think that's it. No reading this week because of the analytics exam, so no additional reading. User experience videos and web tutorial videos will be up in the near future. If I actually leave on Friday night, so for some talks overseas. If they don't, hopefully I'll have some up by then. If not, they'll be up early when I get back after the break. Okay, that's it. You should be working through the search advertising slides and be pretty much done with those videos by the end of this week. That's the big thing to finish up. Oh, and one last thing. The group project, the week I get back, March 15th, that week. From March 15th to March 22nd, I'm going to be hosting some one-on-one meetings with people. March 15th is actually a bad day, so it'll be more like March 16th to March 22nd. And I'm going to try and schedule times in the evening for people to call, have a teleconference set up, and the idea is I'll be able to give you some feedback back on your project, and and by that time I'll have the situation analysis and marketing objectives graded, and I will also be able to answer any questions you might have about the class and about your team project, right? So I will I'll be putting up something to allow people to choose times. I don't need every member of the team to be there, but I would like as many members as possible. And of course, if you ever have any questions, I'm happy to set up additional appointment times to work with. But I like to have one time during the semester when I can sit down with the teams, kind of on a one-on-one basis, and talk through your projects with you. So you should see an email early next week. Even though it's spring break, I'm going to put the details together and everything for you that week. You should see an email early next week to sign up for that. Okay, that's it. Get your situation analysis marketing objectives due. Oh, the one other big announcement, right, is it's not actually due till Friday. Just I had a couple of requests because of some exams and other classes, and so I've moved it all to Friday instead of today. So it's due Friday at 11:55 p.m. situation analysis, and you should see your analytics exams up soon. Okay, take care, everyone.